And it's surprisingly, you know, when you see MPs retire, how good it was with that.
Want to sound check at all? You're pretty good. Right, Mark Fernand, Minister for Agriculture, Industry, Development and Fisheries, and also Minister for Rural Communities, here with Shane Knuth, the member for Hill. Shane, in today at question time, you asked me a question concerning the importations of limes. Limes like these from North Queensland, we supply the greatest capacity of limes for the nation, in fact more than half, over 558 hectares. So presently, the Department of Agriculture and Water is considering the importation of Mexican limes. It's a very important question you asked me, and we want to work with you and also the federal government to support our Queensland farmers. We should be at a time like this when they're being through drought, floods and COVID, supporting them, not considering the importation of Mexican limes. You know, it's a shame these days that we need to even just be discussing this, but it is important that you raise that question during question time, and I strongly appreciate it. Over to you, Shane.
Yeah. Look, we're very, very concerned that the federal government is making recommendations to import limes from Mexico, considering the fact that there is over 101 pest diseases over there, considering the humid climate, and the other is they haven't stamped out citrus canker. Now, when you look at Queensland lime growers, there is big concerns of that importation of that lime into this country. But the other is that communities in the region, and some in my electorate, which is Matilda and Dumbula, and you're looking at Mareeba, going back about 25 years ago, the previous federal government forced them to get out of the tobacco industry and encouraged them to get into limes because it was safe. And as we're seeing now, there is no security in limes, and we must take into account that many of these lime growers are in debt and have spent over $1 million and have loans of up to $1 million setting up the packing sheds and the systems to operate to get those limes out to market. So when it comes to the federal government, it's easy to say, make recommendations. It's easy to say, yeah, well, let's bring this from another country. And it's much more difficult for the lime growers to send lime to Western Australia to what it is for lime growers to send lime to overseas. And so the restrictions is by far less on lime growers from Mexico than what it is for lime growers here in Australia. So if we see that this importation of Mexican limes go ahead, it could be the nail in the coffin, you know, for lime growers in the state of Queensland.
What are you planning on talking about?
Okay, in next couple of weeks we'll be having AgMin, that's the peak body of agricultural ministers across the nation. We'll be having a teleconference. I prefer a face-to-face engagement with the federal minister, but albeit he's the one that's decided to do a teleconference, and I'll be raising this with him. I must remind people also that it was the Queensland government that forced the federal government to have biosecurity on the terms of reference of the overarching AgMin conference. So it's disappointing when we're discussing threats like this of importation of scale and other diseases into our state and into our nation, given the track record of the federal government. We now have established in the Moreton Bay white spot disease as a result of them still to this day, allowing imported green prawns into our state and into our nation. So that's raised with me on numerous occasions through the Australian Prawn Farmers Association. So once again, they've got a record of going down a path of allowing, you know, importation of types of product into our state and nation, which can affect our biosecurity. So it's an important issue, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder with Shane and also his growers up there in North Queensland to raise this matter with the federal government.
So is there a timeline on the implementation of this?
People have their say up until the 7th of June, and we encourage people to make sure they contact the Department of Agriculture and Water and also have their say online about this proposal.
If this goes ahead, will Queensland have to accept limes from Mexico, or can you just say we're only going to have Queensland limes from Queensland?
Well, there's other ways we can deal with that, and one thing we did several years ago was supporting our Queensland farmers right across the sector, was having a release of Eat Queensland, and we encourage people to get behind Queensland farmers, whether it be limes or anything, to support our farmers in this time in respect to the difficult times they're facing.
And how much of a risk is this
Yeah, it's a huge risk, and I was the Member of Parliament in the most southern part of my electorate in that Capella area that took in the Greater Emerald. All those trees had to be wiped out and start again. And it was almost $1 billion it cost the citrus industry.
Minister, on other matters, do you support the premise of euthanasia?
I'll be, like many other members, I'll be looking at the inquiry, I'll be looking at the report, I'll be having a deep, informed discussion with all my constituent base and making a well-informed decision through a conscience vote when the time comes.
Do you support the premise of it though?
Oh, look, at this point in time, I'm waiting to see the evidence. I'm perplexed in terms of the loss of both my parents. So that's in the back of my mind, and I'll be studying the evidence and having informed discussions with my constituents around the bill that was introduced today. But I do commend the Premier for introducing the bill. I do commend the Queensland Law Reform Commission for doing a very thorough job in terms of consideration of what a bill should be considered. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're going to have a toaster.